Hi everyone, it's me, your professor, and I have two videos for you this week. The first one is to look at what happened this first week, and the second video is looking at what's going to come up next week and some introducing some topics. I'm dressed in a tank top right now because my son and I are going to go to the gymnasium right after I record these lectures. So that's introducing next week's topic, though, when we get to the gymnasium. But for this week, let's go back and review just a little bit. I want to point out that this next week, by the way, your assignment is you're going to need to read from Love, Sex, and Tragedy, chapters 1 through 3. Now, what's really important about that is that when you open up Love, Sex, and Tragedy, here's my dog-eared copy, you'll notice that there is Section 1, Section 2, Section 3, but within Section 1, there's chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You have to actually read sections 1, 2, and 3. So you're reading about 200 pages of text this next week. So get busy reading. I don't think you're going to find that burdensome, though, because this is some pretty sassy stuff that you're going to be reading this week. Some fun stuff, too. See the next video. By the way, the reason I'm breaking this into two videos is that when I upload to YouTube, YouTube will only let me have less than 10 minutes for each lecture, so I don't want to run out of time. So, two videos this week. The first one is to talk about this past week, and by the way, I've loved the discussion board this past week. This is the first time I've used the assignment of having you, as students, locate an item in the room, an artifact, and sort of interpret it from a future perspective. And it's been really fun watching you do that. It's been fun seeing your faces. It's been fun seeing your Bubble Joy videos, watching your faces as you've described an artifact. It's been interesting looking at your rooms. That's really fun too, not in some sort of stalking sort of way, but just to see your rooms and what you're pointing out there and what's going on. So really enjoyed it. Loved getting to know you this week. And actually, I feel like I've gotten to know you quite a bit, looking at the arrangement of your room, that sort of stuff, which is related to our topic that we're going to talk about right now. The Motel of Mysteries book, it looks like you're having a lot of fun with it, and indeed it is a fun book, and it's got a very important sort of message to it. It emphasizes the difficulties of trying to understand past cultures and understanding what an artifact within that culture. And I think that's very important. There's a very difficult problem that archaeologists and historians have, which is always sort of looking at the past through the lens of our current time. And then we interpret what we see in the past based upon the way we organize things now. But as you're going to learn this semester, when we go back and we look at ancient customs and habits and traditions and the way that they even carve the world up, we can't look at it through our eyes and get any sort of proper understanding of what's going on. So I think you're going to get that message really quickly. Here's the problem, though. It seems like the Motel of Mysteries really emphasizes the difficulty, so it seems like we truly can't know anything about past cultures. We can't know anything about artifacts in past cultures. And I think that that's actually false. Can we know the meaning of an artifact in the past? Well, the philosopher in me says, well, that depends upon what you mean by the word know and how tightly you're going to turn the screw of certainty. How certain do you have to be before it's legitimate to use the word know? I could ask right now, do I know that my car is in the driveway right now? I can't see it from here. I can look out the front window, but I can't see it from here. I just returned from picking my kids up at school. I told my son to go upstairs and get ready. So just got back from school. I know I parked it in the driveway. I know it's there, but you know, someone could have stolen it. I could have forgotten to put on the emergency brake and it could have rolled down the hill and gone off down the street. Do I know it's in the driveway? Well, there are problems with the word know. It just depends upon how tightly I'm going to screw in that certainty requirement. How certain do I have to be before I can use the word know? Looking at historical artifacts, we can have very good reason to believe certain things. But in science, in archaeology, we don't deal in the world of absolutes. Everything's open for revision. New discoveries could change our understanding of past civilizations and the meanings of different artifacts that we see in the past. That's why new books are coming out all the time with the new discoveries that we dig up that affects what we can know across the board. So how do we start to understand what goes on in past cultures? Well, it's not going to be by looking at a single artifact. For example, By the way, many of you in your artifacts you posted on the board, many of you showed discovered deodorant in your room. I'm really happy you discovered that deodorant. That's a really good thing. One of you said that it was dangerous. Oh no, please don't think that. Deodorant's a good thing. You should wear it. One of you, I think it was the first one posted, there was a guitar over the bed, and it was described as a protection device for before you go to sleep. You slap the strings and make a noise, and the vibration scares away any spirits or that sort of thing. How accurate could we know that to be? Well, it's not going to be from looking at a single artifact in isolation. It's not going to be looking at a single artifact in one context in isolation. Rather, we have to go back and excavate. We go back to a particular time, we have to excavate, and we have to sort of immerse ourselves in that culture and compare and contrast across the board. How can we know if the guitar's purpose was to protect while sleeping? Well, do we find those objects? Do we find guitars hanging above all sleep chambers? Or do we find them hanging above only sleep chambers? Do we find poetry, literature, descriptions of religious rituals that were involving the guitar? Once we start looking at not just a single artwork in isolation, but we look at this sculpture in line with the poetry, in line with the religious practices, in line with the art, in line with the what's the word I'm looking for? I can't believe I've lost the word. The architecture, looking across the board at all of the different cultural artifacts that we can discover that tell us about this time and place. Even the refuse, the stuff they throw away. What does that tell us about them? Then within that, once we immerse ourselves horizontally within a culture, we can start to understand what individuals mean within that context. Let me give you a really quick example. We're going to get to a part where we're going to look at contemporary religious belief, especially Judeo-Christianity, in light of ancient Greece. I don't know if you know, but the Gospels were written in Greek. The Gospels were written in actually poorly constructed Greek. And since the first translations that were made of the ancient Greek into Latin, and then we destroyed a lot of the Greek text, and those Latin texts were retranslated back into Greek to try to recover the original text and the original meanings, and then we've got the translations into different languages, creates all sorts of problems with really understanding what's going on. But by that time, we've got a theology in place. So at that point, we start comparing those words with the theology that's going on. Interesting thing is, we've had lots of discoveries about Greek text and Greek language that are now telling us about what the meaning of those Greek words were, what those Greek words meant. And when we go to a scholar in classical Greece and we look at their vocabulary and we look at what they know about the Greek vocabulary, and we don't look at the text in theological eyes, but we look at what did these words mean at the time they were written down, we get a completely different view. Why are the churches today debating same-sex marriage? Why are they debating whether or not homosexuality is immoral according to the ancient text? It's because when we excavate and we look at the actual language, not the theology that's been created atop an understanding of the language, but you look at the actual Greek language itself of the time and the way it was used, we get a different view. This is a book I got in not very long ago, and it's actually really good, really interesting. Dr. Nyland has done a text. Dr. Nyland, if you look at her background, not a theologian. She is an expert in ancient Greek languages and classical Greek culture. And when she goes back and she looks at those texts in line with the way that the words were used at the time, new discoveries since the translations of the Bible that we have around now, new discoveries not immersed in theology, but rather just looking at the language itself, her conclusion is that the Bible says absolutely nothing whatsoever about homosexuality. Nothing. It talks about pederasty. That's coming up. By the way, really quickly before I end this lecture, look for the post with your assessments that are due. You've got a couple of assessments coming up. You've got your first reading quiz over Love, Sex, and Tragedy, chapters 1 through 3. That's due June 24th at 12 noon. It's available on June 16th. And your Motel of Mysteries first quiz is due June 17th at 12 noon. Make sure you keep up. Look for the next lecture. Talk to you soon. Bye.